brother. We're gonna roll. All right, this is the Design Build Show. I'm here with my good friend Thomas Messier. Messier, not Messier. I grew up with Mr. Messier from the New York Rangers, so
Yep,
messes me up a little bit. But
that's okay.
you prefer Tom?
I do.
Okay, good. Tom Messier. And Tom is my insurance agent. He is amazing, incredible. He is like a freaking, he's just the qualities you would want in somebody to make you feel safe, provided for, and like cared for. Is like, this guy has it. And he specializes in construction industry. Is that what you would say?
So all I do is work with small and mid-sized contractors. We I was inducted in 2017 to the Greater Boston Home Builders Association.
Hall of Fame or what?
Hall of Fame.
Let's go.
I am a member of the Greater Boston Home Builders Association Hall of Fame.
Wow. Yeah, you donated quite a bit of your time to that organization, to NARI, which I'm more active in. And
but yeah, this is basically, if you're not a contractor, you're not one of our clients, and that's all I've done for close to about 35 years now.
yeah, and like reputable contractors. I would add that disclaimer too, right? Because you do the legit stuff. You're not going to give somebody bullshit insurance.
Right. We have minimums that we will let our contract. Yeah. If you don't want real insurance, you're not my client.
Anyway, this guy is the real deal. How many years in the business?
I started doing this in 1983, so 36 years.
Okay. And you specialize in construction.
Yes.
And I'm having Tom on the show as my insurance and litigation expert. Is insurance, is that valid? Like, do you partake in the litigation? Like, insurance touches litigation, right? Like, those things kind of...
Yeah, and oftentimes in litigation, typically your insurance is paying for your defense with your litigation.
Yeah, right.
That's what we do. There can be litigation that we're not involved in because we don't get involved in a contractual dispute. But if there's damage or somebody gets hurt because of your job, that's what your insurance is there for.
Mm-hmm. What would be a contractual dispute that's separate from?
We've had people that there's a fight over you said you would build my house for $100,000 and you build me 120 and I don't want to pay you the last 20.
Oh, right. It's more like a civil
so,
deal.
Yeah, it's a contract. It doesn't. It's not. If the roof doesn't work and it leaks, that's our job.
Yeah.
If you've got an issue over the price, that's not our job.
Yeah, which is that area where there's damage or somebody gets hurt. More so the end product. There's a problem with it, and that's more why I'm having Tom on as an expert who's dealt with a lot of that. And it's very difficult to find statistics on this. I've looked because my theory is that design build increases accountability, and as a direct result, using common sense, you decrease liability or the ambiguity of where that liability lies. Like, if there's an issue on my job, ain't nobody else to point the finger at, and that can be humbling, but I actually love it because you learn from it and you're accountable for it and you can do something about it. Whereas if you have a separate architect and a separate contractor, unless those individuals or entities are unique, which they do exist, but the way it's set up is more to be adversarial. And so you have then, that's where, that triggers the insurance and the litigation. But it's hard to find these statistics. That's something I want to point out because you can have a lot of things get settled out of court, and so there's no record of it, right? It's just difficult to find. But just using common sense, is that theory I have correct?
I think it's, for the most part, correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, if your design is part of the construction team and everybody's on the same page from day one, it leads to, there'll be significantly fewer disputes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there can be disputes. Like I have had one claim in my history, and it was for work we did and a while ago. Subcontractor had an issue with subcontractor. There was an issue kind of as time went on when the job was closed out, and I actually filed the claim myself because I wanted to take responsibility for that. But there was no, there wasn't an architect involved where you had to look at the plans or where the plans executed properly, and there's this split. There's this split of responsibilities where the client is left in the middle. Do a lot of the claims you have and deal with involve separate entities with architect and builder?
Quite often we see disputes where an architect has designed it this way, the homeowner wants it this way, and the contractor built it the third way. Because everybody's not talking, and
Or doesn't understand. The client doesn't understand the plans.
They don't understand. Yeah, and so sometimes things get lost in the interpretation. There's other times where an architect puts something on paper, and the contractor will build it exactly the way the architect designed it, and then it doesn't work.
Give an example of that.
I'll give you an example. It's not a residential example, but one of my clients is a site contractor and was doing some work in athletic fields, and they were hired to put the footings in for a big scoreboard at a high school athletic field.
The goalpost.
It was actually the scoreboard.
Oh, the scoreboard. Okay, I dig it.
Scoreboard.
Cool.
And they put the footings in, and then about a week later, the contractor who was putting building out the scoreboard called and said, "These footings are in the wrong place." And he said, "They're exactly where the architect put them, and they're oriented exactly the way the architect had them. And here's the blueprints, and here's the plans, and here's the footings." And that was, everything was exactly the way the architect had drawn it. The problem was, from the field and from the stands, you would not be able to see the scoreboard. And
It was tilted or slanted.
It was oriented the wrong way.
Yeah.
And the architect, his answer was, "Well, you're the contractor. You should have known when you went to put them in, it wasn't going to work." Well,
It's not the way it's set up.
I did exactly what I was told to do.
Yeah.
And it was, the plans are there. This is how high it's going to be. This is the direction it's going to be. And it was exactly the way that it was drawn on paper.
But then you got pulled into that because there was was there a claim?
There wasn't what you asked about contract. That's really a contractual issue.
Oh, okay.
Because I did exactly what you told me to do.
So there is no default they can claim there.
Nope.
They're just being common sense. You should have observed or what have you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now I think the architect's in the end going to have a real problem.
Yeah. Right.
Now that's not huge, because it's only a couple of footings.
Yeah.
But I had another case where a big subdivision.
The architect might have a claim going on right now.
Oh yeah, that's going to be an architect problem.
Yeah.
I had a big subdivision. It was, and I don't remember what town it was in, but there was about 80 lots in this subdivision, and the engineer came out, laid out all the roads. Client came in, rough the roads in.
Who's a site contractor?
Put his put the rough pavement down. Built the first half dozen houses. One of the people who bought one of the houses wanted to refinance their house, and the refinance company required a survey. And when the new architect or the new engineer came out and did the survey, the house wasn't where they thought it was. And all the lots, everything that the first engineer had laid out, none of it matched.
The deed.
None of it matched the subdivision plan that was approved by the town.
Oh, wow.
And it was a real problem. I want to say there was about 80 lots, and they could either rip the roads up and, start over again, or they had to redesign the lots to fit the roads that were in.
Wow.
They ended up losing like 5 or 6 lots.
Wow, because they redesigned it.
Yeah, which at $150,000 a lot,
Wow.
it changes the financial impact of that entire project.
Right. Yeah.
And again, that to me, that engineer had a real problem,
Yeah.
because he was the guy that designed it. He said, this is where the roads go.
Right. How would it be different if, with the scoreboard situation or the subdivision, if that was one entity, if it was not separated?
Well, I think in the scoreboard situation, you're the contractor. You know what you want to do. You know that the purpose of the scoreboard is so that the people from the stands can see it. Then doesn't it make sense that you're going to make sure that it's designed so that it can be seen?
Right. As opposed to what was the mentality he had?
I don't know why the engineer did it the way he did
No,
it.
the builder. I mean, the contractor.
Well, the contractor, he did it exactly
He was just executing. That was his job, right?
Here's the blueprint. Here's this is where these are. This is the way they're oriented.
He's just looking at that, his scope, right? I'm just doing my job. He's not thinking outside like I'm responsible for.
And even if he was, even if as he's putting it in, he's going, boy, this doesn't look right to me.
He would have just been saving the architect's ass.
If he called the architect and said, I don't think this is right, and the architect says, no, that's the way I want you to do it.
Yeah.
Do it. Here, no, those are the plans. Do it per the plans. Well, okay.
Yeah.
So, again, I think it goes back to this is what my end result is. How do we get to that end result and make it the way you want it?
I mean, go ahead.
On a single, on a home, on a residence, being a homeowner myself, this is my dream. This is what I want my house to look like. Now, what are my options to get it there? And I think that's why working with a contractor that has his own design team, I think you can.
Or an architect that has his own contracting team.
Yeah,
I mean, it's design build, so it's bringing the whole deal about it. Like, you get into this architect-led design build now and contractor-led design build. It's like getting away from the whole thing. Where it's like we bringing it back to one, baby.
So these are my dreams. Get me to my dreams. And there's, so somebody's
be responsible for my vision, carrying it through conception to
overseeing that whole thing.
Creation, yeah. Amen, brother. And I'm thinking, like in this subdivision, putting myself in that position. So the engineer could have been on the design build team, and he just messed that up. And so mistakes, not like mistakes don't happen with my company. We're not perfect, but it fucking simplifies who the hell is going to handle it. I'll tell you that right away. Like, it simplifies who's handling it. And from a client's, like, that was a development, and so that was their own deal. Like, the developer's the client. But when you're a homeowner, do you have any stories of a homeowner being stuck in the middle of a discrepancy? I know you do, man. You got stories out the yin yang.
I can. I mean, there's lots of stories about. I have there's one of my clients, the contractor, he was hired to put a big addition on a house. And the people didn't want any supports or columns in their room, but they wanted a family room that was, I want to say, like 30 by 40, so it was a big span.
Yeah.
And the master bedroom was above it. So they built the room out, and everything was done to code.
Separate architect?
Separate architect.
Okay.
Everything was done to code, everything was done to the plans. I'm not an engineer, but there's this thing
Deflection.
called deflection or refraction or something. When you were in the bedroom above that big room, and you were walking across that floor, it was like you were on a trampoline. Because it bounced. There was a lot of give in that floor. And the people moved in. They said, we can't live with this. And the ceiling in the big room underneath kept cracking.
Yeah.
And the contractor said, I built it to the plans. And the architect said, it's designed to code. Well, code is the minimum.
Right.
Code doesn't mean it's done right. Code is the minimum.
Right.
And they needed stiffer beams, and they just needed more support. Was it possible to do? Absolutely. And the way it was would have worked. I mean,
They would have just had
it was
a
fine,
trampoline on there.
But
Yeah.
there was nothing wrong with it. Nobody was going to get hurt, and the building's not going to fall down. It just wasn't real comfortable.
Yeah. Right. So it just makes it gives you ambiguity.
Right.
Right? And it's set up that way because the architect, when it is separate, is not responsible for the execution. And there's, that's where I came from. And there's a bit of this cover your ass mentality in terms of just drawings. Yeah. So can you speak to that? I mean,
I think there's a lot of, that's what I did. And whether it's the contractor says I did it I built exactly what was drawn, or the architect saying, well, it's designed to code. Just because you did that doesn't mean it's the way, it's the best way to do it. And remember, code is a minimum. That's not the best way to build. Code is a minimum.
right. I mean, it just skirts the issue of just being, because one is not responsible. It's like if I'm designing something and there's things in the field that are uncovered, or there might be things that need to be worked out. Like a lot of drawings you'll see, verify in field or work out in field, like there's these acronyms. And man, I tell you, it's like that comes from not being responsible for the execution, being responsible for the whole deal. It actually brings freedom, because you don't have to worry about that stuff. Like you can just see it through, and you're able to, in that ability to just be responsible for the whole project, it gets you starting to look out more, as opposed to just your own deal, and then this kind of cover your ass mentality.
Yeah.
But I will say, and I know a lot of them are your clients, there's this hybrid that exists, which is becoming extremely popular now, where it is separate, where you have a separate architect and you have a separate builder, but they're hired at the same time, and they hooked up together. Like it's not this design build where it's bid out and then you get the builder. And this is design build. Like that is the same fucking thing that we do, except we're all in house. So my argument is it's in house, it's simpler, it's more efficient, because we've got the whole team together here. But hell, like as long as all the bases are covered, and that's where that comes from. That is where that comes from, because those two professionals get it, and they understand, I know you have a bunch of these clients, right? They're like higher end builders, and they work with, you know, amazing designer architects,
yeah.
and they respect each other and their talents, and the designation of hats and what they're responsible for is clarified. And as long as you got that from the beginning, and the client's rolling, and you know, pricing is figured out, and execution and the workability of the design is all thought through and collaborated, and it's not this complete disconnect, that can be very successful. And do you see that? You see that often now with your clients who are not design build?
Yeah, you know, when you said that are not design build, the architect designs it.
I think I'll just send you that.
The homeowner then goes out and gets 4 or 5 bids, and now I'm bidding it, and now I'm going to build what I bid. There's a lot of times there's some real
You don't even have to say it like that.
stuff lost between the architect's vision, the homeowner's preliminary vision, what the architect, and then what the builder's going to build.
Yeah. How so?
Well, the builder is you know, when it's just this bid process, and it's almost like he's cranked down to, I just got to build what's here because that's what they're going to pay for,
Yeah.
and that's what's affordable to them. And if they never had the discussion originally with the homeowner or with the architect, what's the dream? What is it that I want at the end?
What's the big picture here? Yeah.
You know, I don't just want my kitchen with this counter, and I want my kitchen to do this.
Yeah.
I want my house to do this. And too often when it's the design, quote, build, I think that whole question of functionality or why I'm doing something gets lost.
Yeah. Amen. How big is this industry, insurance, litigation, and construction industry? Just, I know it's kind of, is it big industry?
Oh, it's, well, I don't know what you mean by big.
Yeah.
I can tell you there's not, clients get sued all the time for lots of things.
Yeah.
Clients have disputes with homeowners pretty regularly over, you know, sometimes it's over a couple of dollars, but sometimes it's at the end of the project, but I wanted my house to look like this. Well, you never told the contractor that's what you wanted it to be.
Right.
You might have told the architect, but somehow the big scheme, the reason I'm doing it, the why, got lost.
Right.
And the whole reason you're investing this money in your house and doing the work that you're doing is because you've got internally a big why.
Yeah.
This
you're going to pay a lot of money. You're going to go through some inconveniences.
This is what I want at the end. You know, whether it's whether it's for the kids, for the grandkids, for my, you know, I want to be able to entertain, or it's for your dogs and cats. I don't know who it's for, but you've got a reason you're doing this, and you need to make sure that the why doesn't get lost in the process.
Good. So I'm going to ask you again now. Would the industry going into a more design build route, which it is already,
I think it is.
The consumer just doesn't know about it yet. Isn't like HGTV? That's all they watch is design build. All that is design build. They just don't know it yet, and it's intrinsic. It's natural. So it makes sense for things to go back into that direction. Is it simpler, and would it reduce, you know, this liability game?
I definitely think it's simpler. I think it reduces the liability game because everybody has the same goal from the beginning. You know, to me, that's a big deal. What's my goal? Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
As long as that goal is not lost, I think everybody's better off.
Yeah. And for me, it reduces it because there ain't nobody else.
There's
If something does come up, it's like,
It's me.
yeah, I mean, you can always point the finger at the client, but as a design build firm, it's like, it's my job to find out what the client wants and then to design something and make sure they understand it. So it's me no matter what. And so for me, it just is so much simpler. And so, how do you feel about that though, business wise? You want me to, you still want me to put this out? Yeah, you might lose business.
No, because I don't think I'm going to lose business. The best place to be is, I would like this industry to get better. And the fewer complaints that are out there, the better off everybody is.
Yeah.
Through the Remodelers Association, the guys that are there and are active tend to be the more professional, contractors. I don't know where we're going here, but
Yeah.
I will tell you that one of the things as a homeowner you don't want to do is you don't want to be the only major project that your contractor has done.
Yeah. You got to have a track record.
And not, if a guy has been doing kitchens, you don't want him putting a big addition on your house.
Yeah. That's his first one.
You don't want to be his first addition.
Yeah. That's very true.
So, yeah.
Cool, man. Well, thank you very much. Really appreciate you being on the show, taking the time. Really appreciate what you
Thank
do
you.
for
Thanks
me
for
and
the
all my
opportunity.
colleagues. You do an amazing job, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, you really. This guy's amazing at what he does. And yeah, please share this with folks. Really trying to increase awareness of design build because it does create a better experience and in the end, better buildings.
Thank you.
All right, peace out. All right, man. Good job, dog. That was